Okay, so here's the rules to the game that we've invented. It's called Queen's Castle. And so here's the object of the game. The object of the game is to knock down all of your opponent's pawns, knock down the king, and save the queen. So the first thing that you do is you set up. So each player gets one ping pong ball, 8 pawns, 1 king, 1 queen, and 16 cardboard squares. We have these cardboard squares. They're just roughly 6-inch squares made out of cardboard. And then these little 1-inch squares that you can use as attachments.
Mm-hmm. So each player is given 10 minutes to build their castle out of these squares and position their pieces inside or outside of the castle.
As part of their castle, each player must make a room with at least 5 walls that contains the king and the queen pieces. It can also contain up to 3 pawns. The 5 remaining pawns can be scattered around the board, but can't be inside the room.
Mm-hmm. Each piece must be like a ping pong ball's width apart from each other and also away from a wall.
Wall pieces that aren't used to make the room can be used to make any sort of other defensive structures like freestanding walls or barricades. They can be placed anywhere on your side of the table, but don't have to be connected to the room that contains the king and queen.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the setup part. You got 10 minutes to do that. You've set up your castle and your players. Now it's time to play the game.
Mm-hmm. So you start the game from behind your castle, so over on either side. You take turns tossing the ball, trying to knock over your opponent's pawns.
So when you toss, you are not allowed to lean over the table. Your hand actually can't cross over the edge of the table.
Yeah, and your position for where you toss the ball on your next turn is determined by where it lands on your current toss. So if your ball rolls off or bounces off the table, your next toss is from whatever side of the table that was. And if your ball lands on the table or gets stuck within, a castle structure or something, you will toss from whatever side of the table your ball lands closest to. And you should always position your body near the center of whatever side of the table you're tossing from.
So first, you must knock over all of your opponent's pawns. If you knock over the king or queen on accident during that phase, before all of the pawns are knocked over, your opponent may raise half of your fallen pawns. If there are an odd number of fallen pawns, you may raise the larger half. So if you have 7 pawns that are fainted, then you get to raise 4 pawns.
Yeah. Once you knock over all the pawns, you may try to knock over the king. And once you knock over the king, you must return to your starting position behind your castle and wait for your next turn.
Okay, so then once you've knocked over the king and you're waiting in your starting position, your opponent may now attempt to run the table. This means that on their subsequent turns, if they knock over one of your pawns, they're allowed to take another turn for as long as they keep knocking down pieces. As soon as they miss a shot, it is your turn again.
Yes. To win the game, you have to toss the ball into the room with the queen, have it land and stay in the room without knocking her down. Your first attempt to save the queen must be from your starting position behind your castle. After the first toss, you may follow the normal rules that determine tossing position, which is whatever side the ball bounces off of or lands closest to.
So once you knock over all your opponent's pawns, knock over the king, and land the ball in the room with the queen without knocking her over, you win the game.
You